135 or so million Americans have that app on their phone. Social media, TikTok, and privacy are incompatible, right? If you are on social media, then you have ceded a lot of your privacy. You've given your data to whatever.
Well, yeah, but we also ceded our privacy just by being U.S. citizens, because you guys decided that you have the right to spy on us without our permission, without congressional authority. So what he's saying is, a little true, but it's also because the United States decided they can spy on us. So whether you're on social media or not, they're going to spy on you. But they want you to be afraid of China, though.
A company has created the app. And so the concern, obviously, is that 135 million Americans have given some control over their private information ultimately to the Chinese government. Now, what's the Chinese government going to do with it? How do we tailor a thoughtful resolution? I mean, I hear a lot of concerns, but I don't hear a lot of thoughtful approaches to how we address it. And I'm confident that simply banning the use of TikTok from more than 100 million Americans is really not going to solve the problem.
Well, and one of the things that was raised at a Senate briefing yesterday on all of this, Admiral Stavridis, was, we are all concerned about our privacy and intrusion when it comes from our own government, but we don't seem to, at least 100 million people, many of them under 30, but not all. And certainly it's a big advertising medium now for many, many corporations, and don't seem to be concerned about TikTok. And more broadly,
she just said, I don't know why, CJ. I don't know why these Americans, they're so worried about their own government spying on them. Why are you guys not worried about China? Be afraid about China. Why are you guys worried about that? Come on, man, we just do a little bit of spying. Surely we won't use it against you. You guys see this cope? They come from white American Western chauvinists. Oh, come on, man. I know we spying us. Why are you guys so worried about that? Worry about them. Look, they're looking at you too. I want to see that part again. That part is classic.
And yeah. Midwestern Marxists said, maybe I'll pull up the video. He said that that TikTok, the Chinese that used to manage like the content, the reason why he keeps getting banned is because was pressured so much by the United States that they now farm that out to a company in Texas who now moderates. Because a lot of people are like, what the hell's going on with TikTok lately? He's been getting constantly banned. So you see what happened. They even got the TikTok.
They even got the TikTok, man. They're trying to paint that as only Chinese control. That's the same with the lab leak theory. That's the same with the lab leak theory where right-wingers are like, oh my God, it's the Chinese labs called COVID. And they completely ignore the fact that those are Chinese and US-led projects. So they use the lab leak as a reason to escalate tensions and blame China, even though the US had their hands in it as well. That's the same with TikTok, where they're like, oh my God, look at China and TikTok. No, the United States government got their hands in that as well. That's a great point. Let's continue this. I want to play that part again. This classic. I'm gonna allow this guy to speak a little bit longer, and I'm gonna let the anti-China propaganda continue. Look at this part. This part is so funny.
Well, and one of the things that was raised at a Senate briefing yesterday on all of this, Admiral Stavridis, was, we are all concerned about our privacy and intrusion when it comes from our own government, but we don't seem to, at least 100 million people.
Come on, why are you guys why are you worried about our government, what we're doing? Why are you worried about holding our government accountable? Come on, what about them? What about them? You see this?
Yeah, everybody knows that she's married to Greenspan too. Just keep that in mind. A direct guard plant as a freaking journalist, supposedly, on TV.
So let's hear more of this, because this actually, I watched this segment, I'm like, damn, man, did they keep cranking it up? like they just getting started.
Many of them under 30, but not all. And certainly it's a big advertising medium now for many, many corporations, and don't seem to be concerned about TikTok. And more broadly, let's talk about Chinese advances, military advances, technological advances, artificial intelligence. This is why Avril Haines said that China is the biggest threat, because it's a global threat on so many platforms. So we have a hot war.
What does that mean for you?
But
I'm asking that question. What does that mean for you? She just said, oh, China is a threat. Oh my God, they're doing a good thing with the military. They're doing a good thing with their economy. Oh my God, they're building things, and they're a threat. How are those things related? How does that make them a threat to our life? Because they're prospering. It doesn't. This is the capitalists straight up admitting, oh my God, there's an alternative system. There's our enemies that is actually leading through diplomacy instead of by bombing, by threats. And we cannot have another alternative to our system be shown. That's why they're a threat. It's amazing. That's why I watch these segments, because to me, it's amazing that they say the quiet part out loud. People's brains are just not decolonized enough to see what they're saying. They're not talking to us. This is a sit-down brunch meeting with these 4 people that they air into the public for whatever fuck reason. I still don't know what they do with CJ. Because to me, it says everything about their mindset. Let's continue.
Really, it's China that long-term is what she cited as the biggest threat to our country.
That's absolutely right. I know Avril extremely well, and she's absolutely correct. And I want to agree with Chuck in saying a moment ago that, TikTok is kind of the tip of the TikTok, if you will. It's the tip of all of this. There's an enormous footprint going on here. Director Ray is very well aware of Chinese, very capable espionage going on constantly directed against our highest end systems. We're in a foot race with China for artificial intelligence, quantum computing. China is expanding their nuclear arsenal significantly.
Maybe if our public education system didn't suck and literally put people in poverty, we may have an education system where we can compete with them on those things, but we don't, because capitalism does not promote innovation and talent. It promotes mediocrity.
That costs money.
So you understand
that costs money.
Yep. You understand why we get blown the fuck away by countries like Singapore and China? Like the central planning model is completely different. We're spending money on bombs. Instead, what I said, we need to catch up to China on tech and AI. And I knew this because I went to college and for computer science. They talk about all the time. We're falling behind the tech by China. That was like 10 years ago, CJ. They say, "Oh my God, this is a good problem, bro." They said, CJ, the whole thing been built my entire life. Been hearing this shit. We fall behind.
But they go like, but this is what capitalists do. They go, we're falling behind, and it costs this much to catch up, but we ain't paying for that shit. Who's paying for that? That's what. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to pay to get it up. This is, for example, let me give you an example. For example, like our cell phone infrastructure in the United States, it's owned by corporations and sell in different cities. 5 different companies, cell towers all over their city, right? This is the problem with capitalism. Now, if it was an infrastructure owned by the people, one tower, all of our phones work on it instead of having 5 different companies. Anyway, that was just a point because I'm from the cell phone industry, and it sticked out to me as a point to your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have just a few more receipts and I'll pass it to you now that you're back. Now, the reason I play that, because I'll just add that part to the segment. I just while we was waiting for you, because I think it fits well. Because I want to show you guys just one example, and I'm gonna do more of these anti-China propaganda segments. I may have Danny on here soon, and we're gonna break down a few of them because it's becoming more desperate and more ridiculous. I cut that off, Derek. I think you guys get the vibe, but that's not it. That video was 9 minutes of just be afraid of China. Be afraid of China. Oh my God, China! It's almost they do at least one of these segments every hour. Every hour. They like Alaveshi. He like leads into it the most. But I even seen Joanne Reed dabble into that, and she don't even usually do foreign policy. Like Joanne Reed usually focus on culture.
Chris she's a culture warrior.
They usually don't let Chris Hayes do those segments because they don't want him to seem like an imperialist. They want like save it. But even he dabbles a little bit now. They're so desperate, and this is why. Because we covered China brokering peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which is one of the biggest geopolitical stories in years. Cannot emphasize that enough. Now you have G to speak with Zelensky, meet next week with Putin. After Iran and Saudi Arabia, now Ukraine and Russia. That will literally be an instant new world order once started on peace, which will be quite a symbol. Now, the question to the deeply unserious Western establishment that gave a Nobel Peace Prize to Barack Drone King Obama. You have G that literally negotiated peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, who is bringing the entire global South together on BRICS and now trying to escalate and promote peace in Ukraine. I don't take the Nobel Peace Prize seriously because people like Xi don't get it. Because Xi Jinping should definitely get the Nobel Peace Prize because he's doing something the United States is not doing. You want to know what else China is doing? They making the United States look like fucking fools. So they showing these segments on MSNBC and on the BBC, on Fox News and CNN, all rank ridiculous anti-China propaganda. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, they hearing what China is saying. They hearing what Russia is saying, and they say, okay, we hear your argument, we hear Putin's argument, we hear your argument, we hear Anthony Blinken's argument, now we hear Xi Jinping's argument. Their argument make more sense than yours. That's a story I showed before where Africans, there's a poll that showed that Africans, when shown Chinese propaganda, American propaganda, and then neutral propaganda, most of them believe the Chinese side because we have no land to stand on. That's why we do these ridiculous segments. So as U.S. is pretending that China will take the side of Russia and Ukraine, as they pretending that they're doing genocides of the Uyghur population, as they pretend that China about to invade Taiwan, as they are completely making up this fictional narrative that does not exist, China promoting peace. China is building people, and they are calling out the United States for the war crimes. What just happened? What just happened? The United States voted against ending the occupation of Syria. So, as they condemn Vladimir Putin and Russia for their invasion of Ukraine, they are literally occupying Syria, stealing their oil, and supporting Israel in their bombing campaign of Syria. So here's China here. I think this is
美国非法介入叙利
I'll
亚
read
危
it. So it's in not in English. Here it is. I'll read it here. They said the United States illegally intervened in military. Oh, I got muted first. They illegally intervened in military operations related to the Syrian crisis, killing a large number of innocent civilians and leading to serious humanitarian disaster. The United Nations Independent, God damn, that one was fast. The United States Independent International Commission of Inquiry, I think because she used the abbreviation. I think that's probably why it went fast. On the Syrian Arab Republic, has repeatedly criticized the U.S. Army for launching indiscriminate attacks. So what she bringing up here is that, yo, everyone else is saying, hey, U.S. Israel, what the fuck? That's what she's saying. Everyone else is like, hey, what the fuck? And now China is also saying, hey, U.S., what the fuck? Now, all right, let's get to the next part. See, some of them last long and some of them go by fast. I don't get it. Suspected of committing war crimes. The Syria crisis is about to enter its 13th year. At least 350,000 people have lost their lives. And 14 million people are in urgent need of humanitarian relief, which a lot of them are not getting because of Syrian sanctions, which Democrats voted against lifting, by the way. Democrats and Republicans. The United States still believes that it's too early to withdraw its troops and has no intention to end its illegal military presence in Syria. We appeal that the United States should earnestly respect the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of other countries. CJ, you see the flex? So as the United States is doing this obvious bullshit tour, where they're like, oh my God, we stand for sovereignty. We stand for peace. Oh my God, Russia is evil. China is doing PR campaigns all around the world. Like, the United States needs to respect people's sovereignty. They need to stop invading countries. They need to respect the sovereignty of Syria. So they're directly undermining the United States. And while the NATO left, and while the Americans are brainwashed and they can't see this stuff, the rest of the world is. The rest of the world sees China just straight flexing on the United States with these press conferences. I'll continue. I think it's just a little bit more.
I mean, it's a great plan to just simply go around the world and treat people like humans and tell them the truth about history. That's literally what you just said. You go around and I think you can. It reflects what she's kind of speaking to is reflected in what Africans have been doing, siding, not just chiming in on Ukraine war. So I mean, it's a great plan. I mean, this is inevitable. It's inevitable that this central planning model is going to be more appealing than capitalism that doesn't care about any sort of central planning model. Look at our road and bridges. Look at our infrastructure. Doesn't care whatsoever. Look at all of the wars, all of the military bases we have around the world. The threat is that there's another system that makes sense, Nick. Go ahead.
No, what's that? What's that? That's the press conference. And if you look this story up, I had to go on Press TV, which is like banned in the UK, right? Hopefully I'm getting that right. But Press TV is considered like Russian propagandist, right? All this kind of shit. And you gotta find, like, if you Google China, Syria, this shit is not covered anywhere in U.S. media, and not covered in NATO left media. Why? Question I gotta ask you guys. I don't know why. I think I do. China to United States. Stop plundering Syrian resources. Pull troops out. So they're going to continue to flex and call out the United States for the humanitarian contradictions and lead the world as the leader. Like the Saudi Arabia-Iran thing is such a huge shift because it shows that U.S. influence in that region is dying. That's why Saudi Arabia made a mockery of Joe Biden when he visited them. And now Saudi Arabia, when Putin came, there was a grand spectacle. It was like, oh my God, Putin, it's so great to see you. Then when the United States Biden came, all right, motherfuckers, all right, what the fuck y'all want? You know what I mean? So now China is showing how powerful they are because remember, this happened because China is the largest importer of oil. And they do great business with Iran and Saudi Arabia. And unlike the United States, they're not lecturing and being hypocrites on Saudi Arabia and pulling out of agreements with and deals with Iran. So Iran is like, bro, if you don't like the United States, I fuck with you. That's been Iran fuck with Russia.
Essentially,
I fuck with China. I fuck with Venezuela. Iran fuck with anyone who don't fuck with the United States, and that's their goddamn right because Iran has been extremely patient. I spare you guys. I did this lecture so many times, but between the Iran deal, between the sanctions, the United States pulled out of the Iran deal, kept the sanctions on, and then they kept going after Iran for enriching their uranium, even though that's the deal they pulled out of. You had Donald Trump that instilled a hardline policy on Iran. Biden took over, and Anthony Blinken doubled down on that policy. And in an interview I covered this a few months ago, we said there are a lot of things we disagree with Trump on. That's a lie. He just said that for political purposes. But he said there are a lot of things we disagree with Trump on, but they had the right approach for Iran. There's no two parties, guys. There's a one-party machine here. And I'll wrap my statement with that.
Actually, I'm adding to this segment because I actually had this prep for a segment, but since you're talking about it, let's bring it up. It's about 2 minutes of Ben Norton talking about this that just recently happened, how China brokered this. This is the difference. The difference in the United States approach and China approach.
China surprised the world this March with an incredible announcement. It had helped to negotiate peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. These are two countries in West Asia, the so-called Middle East, that did not even have formal diplomatic relations for 7 years. They were basically at war with each other, and the United States had been pressuring Saudi Arabia to join it in its so-called maximum pressure campaign against Iran, which really amounts to a kind of hybrid war or unconventional war against Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia and Iran have signed peace talks, and China is talking about further helping to integrate Asia and especially working toward increasing their economic ties. And today I'm going to talk about how this can be a geopolitical game changer. And not only in terms of helping to bring peace to West Asia, the so-called Middle East, which is a region that has suffered from constant U.S. wars and destabilization and intervention. But even more significantly, in my view, is what this means for oil and specifically the petrodollar. Since the 1970s, the vast majority of oil in the global market has been sold in U.S. dollars. And this has been one of the ways in which the U.S. has been able to maintain the hegemony of the U.S. dollar after removing its links to gold in 1971 with the Richard Nixon.
Now, I don't want him to belabor the point. He's going to get to it. But the point being, BRICS is rising, Nick. BRICS is rising. Iran, it has. So this sort of question their issue with Saudi Arabia, who's also interested in BRICS. Look at what they're building. Look at like BRICS. BRICS is made up of the vast majority of OPEC nations. You see this. You see this of BRICS building that is happening here. And that's what Ben sort of points out when he says about the petrodollar, because Saudi Arabia has already been talking about taking oil and other currencies like Chinese currency. So now we want to see this, but understand people in the United States, you're going to fix, because once this collapse of the dollar, or once the collapse, and it's not going to collapse overnight, well, once this shakeup, this multipolar world comes, like that affects us, like our standard of living, how we're getting all these cheap products so low, and how our pay is so low. It's gonna hit a brick wall when we start to feel this. Like people don't even understand, Nick. But I didn't want to play the whole video, just the first part to kind of just give everybody the groundwork of this is what China's doing, man. This is ridiculous. The U.S. didn't see this miles away.
Yeah, I'm gonna interject this video and then I'll pass it to you, because I will do this on another show, but I ran out of time. But I think it's a good time since you mentioned how BRICS is expanding. I read this tweet, but I didn't get a chance to play the video before. But this is Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Algeria, Argentina, Mexico, and Nigeria are among the latest countries that are interested in joining BRICS. So let's watch the video, and then I end the segment after the video.
Priority areas that we have signaled as part of our BRICS mandate.
Plans for expansion, looking to get more
expansion.
members.
That's a big debate.
That's about BRICS expansion.
As you know, the 5 countries came together as a progressive forum. There's a lot of commonality. India and South Africa experienced colonialism and came out of it. Brazil.
You see how she mentioned the thing that ties these BRICS countries together? They're stronger than any ideology. Like what is stronger? What ideology is stronger than the united principle that you guys suffered through Western imperialism? Like we suffered through this shit together, and that's why we gotta go through this shit together.
It's what brought enslaved Africans and indigenous people together for a new tribes that was formed that made up of enslaved, because what brought them together? The same white oppressor, the same white person that's bringing a genocide upon their people. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah.
India and South Africa experienced colonialism and came out of it. Brazil has had experience of, fighting for democracy. They had many military coups and so on. Now they're a strong democratic nation. China has come out of a very difficult period of poverty. And Russia, of course, has had to withstand the Second World War and other experiences. So we come from a history of struggle and have come together to try and shape a common global agenda. Now,
they are united by their past struggles with imperialists, but people like Anthony Blinken think they can go into a meeting and sweet talk these people and to think the United States has the best interest. What do you think is more powerful, the charisma of the Biden administration or the shared experience of these countries that have been victims of imperialism? Let's continue.
Now, when you have people interested in joining your organization, one of the first questions is, do they reflect our characteristics and interests? So while we are ready to discuss expansion, we believe that it's very important that we shape a set of criteria that we would utilize to look at the various countries that are interested. I think it's a plus for BRICS that there are countries that say we want to join you, and they're actually writing everywhere we go. We are asked about this, so it will be something our leaders will discuss at the summit in August, and after that we'll have guidance from them.
But how many countries have sent you the
invite that you want to be? On my desk, I think I have 12 letters.
12 letters?
Damn.
And I suspect other foreign ministers have had approaches from their own regions. Yeah.
And remember, AMLO, I ended the clip there. AMLO from Mexico
Yeah, I had another segment on that one too. Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead. Speak on it.
Yeah, after AMLO decided he wanted to join BRICS, all of a sudden you got right-wing commentators that said we need to send the military down there to fight the cartels. The cartels have been there for years. Now they want to send the military there.
What's the timing on that? I've been because I was gonna have a segment on that, and not necessarily a segment, just bring it up. But what's the timing? With Mexico, did the kidnappings happen first, or was AMLO speaking about this? Because it seems like maybe the AMLO spoke about it, and then the kidnapping happened. But what is the kidnapping being used as a way of them saying military intervention into Mexico? Is the question? Yeah. So whether it's real or not, whether the United States is involved in that so-called killing, or whether it's an actual kidnapping. I'm sorry, not killing, kidnapping. Whether it's an actual kidnapping is irrelevant. Their empire is using it, whether it's real or not, in order to say let's do military intervention because now Mexico is talking about some fucking bricks. That's from their point of view. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this probably was something they've been planning for a while, and now they just ramped it up because of the BRICS conversation. Because AMLO criticized the NATO agenda. AMLO led the coalition to condemn the United States for the Cuban embargo. AMLO also led the coalition that criticized the United States for their involvement in Venezuela. So AMLO has been actually a surprise. Like a lot of people didn't have that. They knew he was like more of a social democrat leftist, but people did not expect him being a Mexican president. Usually Mexican presidents don't have the freedom to resist U.S. empire like South American presidents usually do. So it was a big surprise to see Lula speak out against the United States. It's like almost like he woke up like, fuck these motherfuckers. Like it's weird because he has been extremely. I've seen people who was critical of Emma like, damn, this motherfucker come out hot with this, especially with the Cuba embargo, the side with Venezuela, the criticism of NATO, and he been advocating countries like Nicaragua and others in Central America and South America for more of a political coalition against the United States. So now all this shit's been happening, and now all of a sudden they start caring about Mexican kidnappings, and all of a sudden the cartel's out of control again. So I don't believe it's a coincidence. If you guys do, that's fair, but my mind just don't work that way. That's not the way my mind works personally.